The Buffalo Bills walked out of Week 11 with a win that felt like a spark finally catching flame, but the celebration didn't end without a few concerns. As the game wound down, one of the most important young defenders on this roster, Cole Bishop, was suddenly nowhere to be found on the field. For 3 straight weeks he's been flying around, playing at a level well beyond his experience, and then in the closing moments against Tampa Bay, he vanished from the defensive rotation. Fans immediately started asking the same question: was Bishop hurt? Eyewitnesses near the bench reported that he spent the final series stretching and testing his hamstring, trying to loosen something that clearly didn't feel right. The Bills were already protecting a comfortable lead, so the staff didn't push the issue. Bishop stayed on the sideline, helmet on, ready if needed, but he never checked back in. That alone doesn't confirm anything, but it absolutely raises an eyebrow considering how much ground he had been covering in that late deep ball sprint downfield. Before we continue with the latest injury chatter and roster updates, take a second to subscribe, drop a like, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any breaking Bills news. Now let's get into what's next for this team. From what we can gather, this could be nothing more than a precaution, tightness after a long run in the final minute. But given how essential Bishop has become, especially with the way he's been diagnosing plays and delivering impact hits the last few weeks, the Bills can't afford to overlook even a minor issue. If he appears on this week's injury report, that'll tell us a lot about how serious things might be. Whether it turns into a real setback or disappears as quickly as it surfaced, one thing is clear: his emergence has changed the energy of Buffalo's defense. And any sign of trouble, even a small one, is worth a very close watch. Cole Bishop's rise has been one of the strongest developments of Buffalo's season, and every week his impact becomes harder to ignore. Ever since stepping into a bigger role, he's delivered turnovers in crucial moments, whether it was that early season game-saving pick against New Orleans or the interceptions he stacked in back-to-back weeks against Miami and Tampa Bay. What's made his emergence so impressive isn't just the highlight plays, it's how quickly he's grown into a complete defender. His tackling numbers are climbing, his coverage instincts have sharpened, and he's consistently finding the football. By the time Week 11 wrapped, his production had pushed him into the conversation with the top young safeties in the league. Analysts who track every snap have already flagged him as one of the best second-year players in the NFL, and the film backs it up: improved angles, quicker diagnosis, and the confidence to roam sideline to sideline without hesitation. A huge part of that development comes from the veterans around him. Jordan Poyer's presence behind Bishop has given the young safety freedom to play aggressively without losing structure. That trust on the back end, knowing there's experience guiding the formation, has unlocked Bishop's ability to cover massive chunks of field and break on plays that most safeties can't reach. With all of that growth now powering Buffalo's defense, the possibility of even a minor hamstring issue becomes something the team must treat seriously. The Bills cannot afford to lose the momentum Bishop has created, especially not on a short week when the roster is already dealing with its share of bumps and bruises. And speaking of injuries, Buffalo had several situations develop during the Tampa Bay game. Mecole Hardman, who opened the night with a burst of energy on a long kick return, later exited after a punt return collision left him dealing with a calf issue. Those injuries typically aren't one-week fixes, so the team may be without him briefly as he works his way back. Along the defensive front, Larry Ogunjobi fought through the game but was spotted with fresh shoulder taping afterward, nothing that took him off the field but notable enough to monitor. Matt Milano was also seen with added support on his shoulder post-game. He has been active and involved recently, but considering the upper body issues he has managed this season, the Bills won't overlook even the smallest detail when it comes to keeping him ready. Through all of this, Buffalo's depth continues to be tested, but Bishop's ascent remains one of the brightest points of the year. The hope now is that the team escapes Week 11 without any long-term damage to one of its most promising defenders. As the Bills come off a physical Week 11 outing, another name worth monitoring is Jordan Hancock. Much like Matt Milano, he's been pushing through a lingering shoulder issue all season, consistently wearing supportive bracing to keep himself on the field. The latest images from the sideline show he's still dealing with discomfort, but nothing that suggests a major setback at this point. His toughness has kept him in the lineup, yet the short turnaround could magnify any flare-ups he's been managing behind the scenes. And that's where the schedule becomes a factor. With Buffalo preparing to play again in just a matter of days, the team is staring at one of the shortest weeks of the season. Limited practice time, accelerated recovery windows, and reduced on-field reps almost guarantee we'll see some unexpected names appear on the week's injury report. That doesn't necessarily mean new problems, it often reflects the medical staff being cautious during compressed weeks like this. Still, every designation carries weight when depth is already being stretched thin. As we look ahead, the Bills' focus shifts entirely toward stabilizing the roster before the Texans matchup. The conversation all week will center on whether key contributors can recover quickly enough to be full participants on Thursday night. Buffalo has handled adversity throughout the year, but the next few days will test their ability to manage bodies, adjust rotations, and protect their most important players without sacrificing performance. The Bills know what's at stake, and the medical staff will be working non-stop to get the roster as close to full strength as possible. With leaders like Milano and Hancock grinding through long-term soreness, and others recovering from fresh Week 11 collisions, every hour of rest matters. This stretch may be short, but it's critical, and Buffalo's ability to navigate it cleanly will shape how confidently they enter the next phase of their season. As the Bills prepare for their Thursday showdown, there's still uncertainty about who Houston will line up at quarterback. Their starter must clear every stage of the concussion protocol before taking the field, and with such a tight turnaround, even small delays can push a player out of contention. Houston isn't getting a full week of practice either, which only adds to the unpredictability. For Buffalo, the identity of the opposing quarterback absolutely matters. Davis Mills has managed 2 straight wins and built a rhythm with Nico Collins, giving the Texans stability despite missing their starter. But if the original QB1 returns, the Bills will be facing a far more dynamic threat, one they know all too well after last year's trip to Houston. Either way, the situation remains fluid, and Buffalo will prepare for both possibilities. Looking further ahead, another storyline surfaced that could impact the Bills in the coming weeks. Pittsburgh's starting quarterback left the Steelers' matchup with a wrist injury significant enough to require a cast. Early reports suggest it's a minor break, but trying to operate an NFL offense with a compromised throwing wrist borders on unrealistic. The Steelers insist they'll monitor his movement, but Buffalo may find themselves facing a backup when that game arrives. With the AFC race tightening, opportunities like that can shift momentum in a heartbeat. Now, turning back to the Bills' own roster, one of the more surprising developments continues to revolve around Keon Coleman. Before the game in which he was benched, cameras caught him dancing on the sideline, an image that didn't sit well with many inside the fan base or the organization. At a time when accountability matters, that moment felt completely disconnected from where the team's mindset needed to be. Coaches and veterans spoke carefully afterward, but the message between the lines was obvious: the expectations are higher than what he's shown. And when you look at the numbers, the frustration becomes easier to understand. In the limited sample we have, Buffalo's offense has produced significantly more when Coleman isn't on the field, nearly a full touchdown more per game. Nobody is giving up on his talent, and the team invested real draft capital in him, but production and maturity both have to meet the standard if he's going to earn those snaps back. Right now, the Bills need every piece of the machine running in sync. Anything, or anyone, who disrupts that rhythm risks holding the entire unit back. Coleman has every physical tool to succeed in this league. What he shows next will determine whether he becomes part of the solution. Keon Coleman isn't lacking talent, nobody is questioning his physical gifts. But the harsh reality for Buffalo right now is simple: this team doesn't have the luxury of waiting for a young receiver to find his maturity while the season hangs in the balance. With every game carrying playoff implications, the Bills need immediate reliability, not long-term potential. At this point, keeping him sidelined isn't an indictment of who he could become one day, it's a reflection of what the team needs right now. The offense has operated cleaner, sharper, and more consistent when he hasn't been involved. Until he matches the standard required, on and off the field, it's difficult to justify handing him meaningful snaps. Buffalo is deep enough at receiver to stay explosive without forcing the issue. Now let's shift to a bigger picture topic that suddenly looks far less hopeless than it did a couple of weeks ago. The AFC East, once feeling out of reach, has cracked open just enough for the Bills to see a path forward. After the stumble against Miami in Week 10, the division looked like it was slipping away, but Week 11 brought a little clarity, and a reminder that there's still time to make a run. Here's what stands between Buffalo and a division crown. Scenario 1, win out. If the Bills take every remaining game, New England simply needs to drop one additional matchup. Buffalo faces them before the season ends, so they would control a chunk of that destiny themselves. Scenario 2, sweep the remaining AFC opponents. Then New England must lose one more division game, either against the Jets in Week 17 or Miami in Week 18. Neither outcome feels impossible, but both require some help. Scenario 3, beat New England head-to-head. From there, Buffalo must finish with a stronger record over the remaining schedule while the Patriots suffer at least one more stumble. It's a thinner margin for error, but it's a path nonetheless. None of these scenarios are guaranteed, and the math still leans uphill. But with Josh Allen leading an offense that's beginning to rediscover its rhythm, Buffalo remains dangerous. The defense still has questions to answer, especially as injuries continue to test its depth, yet the team is trending in the right direction at the right time. The division isn't locked. The door isn't closed. And as long as number 17 is under center, the Bills have every reason to believe they can fight their way back to the top.